It's Mrs. Messer here with our next award story, and this one is called The Boy Who Invented the Popsicle. I don't think I need to tell anybody what a popsicle is. Anyway, I always love hearing how different things came to be. So this is the story of the popsicle. Who knew? The Boy Who Invented the Popsicle, the cool science behind Frank Epperson's famous frozen treat. I want to be a great inventor. Frank William Epperson knew what he wanted to be when he grew up. And everyone in Frank's family knew too, because in case they forgot, he reminded them often. When not busy with his schoolwork or chores, Frank could be found adventuring with his brother Cray, practicing his cornet, or learning magic tricks. He also pondered important questions. Do goldfish sleep? Do ants have ears? Do woodpeckers get headaches from pecking all day? Those are some great questions. But Frank's favorite pastime was inventing. And to invent, Frank knew he had to experiment. So off he would go to his laboratory, his back porch. There he doodled and designed, tinkered and tested, analyzed and scrutinized. All good things inventors do. By the time Frank was 10 years old, he had already masterminded his first invention, a handcar with 2 handles. At twice the speed of a regular one-handled handcar, Frank whizzed down the street of his neighborhood. Hot dog! And there he goes. Look at that. I see the 2 handles right there. Looks a little bit like a go-kart. Frank also experimented with liquids. Here is an example. Why won't they play together? How do you experiment with liquids? So here is an experiment you could try. You would need cooking oil, water, and a drinking glass. And what you are going to do, you will pour cooking oil into a glass, add the water, mix the 2 liquids together, and wait 2 minutes. You will see what happens. The oil rose above the water because it is less dense, lighter for its size than water. No matter how much you mix these 2 liquids, they will always separate. Why? Just like magnets are attracted to other magnets, water molecules are attracted to other water molecules, but oil molecules and water molecules are not attracted to each other. One more thing. Food coloring is made of water. So what happens when you add a few drops of food coloring to the glass? The drops will slowly travel through the oil and only mix with the water. So if you have these things at home, you could try this experiment just like Frank did. Molecules are like building blocks. Just as a house is made of bricks, you and I and almost everything on Earth is made up of minuscule particles called molecules. Molecules are so small they can only be seen with a very powerful microscope. We probably don't have that at our homes. But what Frank loved most was experimenting with flavored soda water, the kind that hissed and wheezed when he held a glassful to his ear and sent tangy bubbles galloping across his tongue with every gulp. Frank had his heart set on inventing the yummiest, most thirst-quenching, lip-smacking soda water drink ever. So, off Frank would go to the corner store to buy the flavored soda water powders he needed for his experiments, often with his little brother Cray tagging along. Here they are, going to get their soda water. Hi, Big Ep. Hi, Little Ep. Cray was a handy taster for Frank's concoctions. Some of his attempts were unsuccessful. You could even say they were disastrous. But Frank just kept on trying. And here is a whole lot of fizzing going on. And here is another way you could make your own lemon-flavored soda water. So if you have these things at home, lemon juice, water, a drinking glass, baking soda, and sugar, you would be able to pour the lemon juice into the glass, add the water, add the baking soda, and mix well. You should see some fizzing action going on. Now taste your fizzy lemonade. You can add the sugar to sweeten. What happened? The baking soda reacted with the lemon juice and created a gas called carbon dioxide. That what makes the fizz. One more thing. Try this experiment with other citrus fruits like limes, oranges, and grapefruit. So if you like this, I would freeze the camera and write down the actual ingredients and the amounts you would want. That is probably important too. One day, Frank and the other children in his neighborhood decided to build a miniature amusement park. There was a theater, a merry-go-round, and a scenic railway. Frank was assigned the soda water stand, which suited him just fine. He could share his soda water creation with his friends. It was also around this time that something peculiar happened. The temperature dipped, then plunged. This would not have been unusual had Frank lived in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, or Pocatello, Idaho, where it could be bitterly cold in winter, but he lived in San Francisco, California, where only rarely did the temperature drop below freezing. So Frank tried another experiment. He left a glass of flavored soda water outside overnight. And he's thinking, I wonder what this will taste like frozen. Well, when he woke the next morning, Frank ran to his back porch to discover his soda water had frozen solid. He could no longer sip it. He had to lick it like a lollipop. Frank had invented a frozen drink on a stick. Hot dog! As he grew older, Frank's invention did not melt from his memory. He just tucked it away in the corner of his mind. And there it stayed while he and his sweetheart, Mary Frances, began raising their gaggle of children. But when Frank noticed more and more people eating chocolate-covered ice cream bars, off he went to his laboratory, now in his garage, to experiment. Could I make money with my frozen drink invention? What if I used fruit juices? Frank found a way to make many of his drinks on a stick at the same time, with test tubes to mold them, wooden sticks to hold them, and a cool way to freeze them. Hot dog! Oops. For Frank's drinks on a stick to freeze, they had to be cold, very cold, colder than 0 degrees Celsius. The freezing point of water. Why? Because their ingredients like sugar and flavoring lowered their freezing point. So what did Frank do? He built a freezing box that held dozens of test tubes suspended in a mixture of crushed ice and salt. Frank knew that salt lowered the freezing point of water, and that salty water froze at a much lower temperature than plain tap water. The salt and ice mixture would be colder than 0 degrees Celsius. The big freeze. How to show that salt lowers the freezing point of water. So if you want to try this, you're going to need 2 drinking glasses, some salt, and some lukewarm water. You will pour the lukewarm water into each glass, add the salt to one of the glasses, and mix well until the salt is fully dissolved. That means you can't see it anymore. Put both glasses of water into the freezer and wait 3 hours. What happened? The plain tap water froze, but the salty water did not. Why? Water becomes ice when it reaches 0 degrees Celsius. But if there is sodium chloride, also known as salt, in the water, it lowers the water's freezing point. The temperature of the salty water needs to be colder than 0 degrees for it to freeze. Touch the glass of salty water. It feels colder than the glass of frozen water. Cool. Frank's drinks on a stick also had to freeze quickly. If they froze too slowly, the sugar and flavoring, which were heavier than water, settled at the bottom of the test tubes, leaving just flavorless frozen water at the top. Frank wanted his treat to have the same tasty flavor throughout. The salt and crushed ice mixture surrounding the test tubes was so cold, it froze the liquid inside the tubes in minutes. Who knew that into just getting a popsicle frozen? It took all of that experimenting. A frozen treat in a flash. How to make your own frozen treat in only 5 minutes? You will need some of your favorite fruit juice, 10 large ice cubes, salt, water, a small plastic resealable bag, and a large plastic resealable bag. And because this is going to be cold, you will want to have oven mitts. You will pour the juice into the small plastic bag. Try to remove the air from the bag and make sure it is well sealed. You will then put the ice cubes, water, and salt into the large plastic bag. Put the smaller bag of juice inside the larger bag. Make sure the larger bag is also well sealed. Put on your oven mitts and shake the bag back and forth for about 5 minutes to mix the ice, water, and salt around the smaller bag. What happened? So, as you remember from the last experiment, the salt lowers the freezing point of water. That means this salty water surrounding the other bag gets much colder than 0 degrees Celsius. So when you shake that large bag back and forth and work the ice, water, and salt mixture around the smaller bag of juice, the mixture gets colder and colder and the juice freezes. This is why oven mitts come in handy. One more thing, best to shake the bag over the sink to avoid a mess, just in case. So again, you can always pause this and either write it down, or you could go and try it if you have all these things at home. Frank named his invention the Popsicle and began selling it for a nickel at county fairs and beaches. In the evenings, his children helped him roll the nickels he had earned. Frank had a clever way to encourage shop owners to sell his frozen treats. For several weeks in a row, he sent one of his children into a store to buy an Popsicle. Each week, the shop owner had to tell a different child the Popsicles were not sold in the store. Frank would then visit the store himself and ask the shop owner to stock his treats. Of course, the owner agreed after having had so many requests. Oh, that was pretty clever. Frank's children were also keen to sample their father's confections. And with all of them clamoring for their Pop's tasty fabrications, in time, the name of Frank's invention changed to, oh my gosh, see that he's saying, Pop, can we have a sickle? Orange is my favorite. The Popsicle. Maybe you knows that sometimes people call their dad Pop. So this could also be called the dad sickle or the father sickle. Oh, who knew? Okay, so here is some actual pictures. So this would be our inventor Frank right here. Here is one of an old advertisement for popsicles. And here is Frank selling the popsicles. And this was all the way almost 100 years ago. Some people think this is the first photo of popsicles being sold. Yes. And there he is working his magic with all of his salted water to keep it cold in his test tubes. Very cool. I'm wondering what your favorite flavor of popsicle is. So I think I'm going to ask you to tell me that. I'm going to tell you, I think my favorite flavor of popsicle is a grape popsicle. Hope you enjoyed learning about how the popsicle came to be.